Airworthiness is the measure of an aircraft's suitability for safe flight. The certification of airworthiness is conferred by the State of Aircraft Registry and National Aviation Authority. In the case of Nigeria, it's the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority. Airworthiness includes oversight of aircraft, persons or organizations involved in the design and production as well as maintenance of aircraft. And all this is done in a bid to ensure excellent safety standards. This is where we turn attention on aviation this week. A warm welcome to the program. I'm Bukola Joe Oketumbi. The air transport industry is not only a vital engine of global socio-economic growth, but also a catalyst for economic development. Sustaining a viable airline industry is important in this mix, as this subsector cannot exist without airworthy aircraft. Airworthiness is the measure of an aircraft's suitability for safe flights. The certificate of airworthiness is conferred by the State of Aircraft Registry and National Aviation Authority. In the case of Nigeria, it's the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority. Certification is based on standards applied by the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, with national benchmarks adopting standards from the International Civil Aviation Organization. Maintaining regular airworthiness safety oversights includes these areas: air transport operators, approved maintenance organizations. Airworthiness also includes oversight of any other person or organization involved in the design, production, modification, repair, or maintenance of aircraft and training aspects of personnel engaged in civil aviation. This effective safety oversight is to ensure excellent safety standards.
Airframe and power plant, the one that will look at the engines to make sure it's okay. The ones that will look at avionics, making sure that when you communicate with air traffic controller, they can hear you and you can hear them. But the aircraft maintenance will make sure that the structures and other things are in good order. The only person that can determine airworthiness is that pilot, who must be honest. If the pilot is not honest because he's afraid of his boss, then there's a problem. So the pilot must be able to explain to the boss whether it is airworthy or not.
Aircraft airworthiness is concerned with the standard of safety incorporated in all aspects of its construction. This range from structural strength to the provision of certain safeguards in the event of crash landings and include design requirements relating to aerodynamics, performances, and electrical and hydraulic systems. The big birds usually go through checks across airframe and engine components.
The engine is the workhorse, is the one that takes you from point A to point B. That is, it helps you to overcome gravity by the thrust it generates. And if, for example, a small bird enters into the engine, that bird can change the characteristic of that engine, and we have seen so many accidents, aircraft accidents, due to those simple things. The tires are very important when it's taking off and landing, because the tire takes a lot of force on it, and you must inflate it to the correct pressure.
As part of its oversight on airworthiness, the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority in March grounded the operations of Azman Air following what it describes as a series of incidents involving the carrier's Boeing 737 aircrafts. The authority says it seeks to conduct an audit of the airline to determine the root cause of the incidents.
This airline had 3 incidents within a period of 6 weeks, starting 11 February, and they are all related to a particular part of the aircraft, the tires, the wheels. What happened in Lagos, there was no report, there was no maintenance work, and the aircraft took off. with passengers to Lagos.
On the whole, airworthiness standards is built to ensure all aircraft operating into, within and out of Nigeria's airspace is airworthy. Now to the United States, where the Federal Aviation Administration is proposing that airlines replace fuel system processors on the Boeing 73 MAX jets, citing problems with fuel shut-off systems. Boeing already addressed the concern in a 2020 service bulletin that described procedures for replacing a processor. The issue involves a problem with the automatic shut-off system on the 737 MAX 8 and the MAX 9s. This is contained in a proposed airworthiness directive issued on the 2nd of April. The FAA says during refueling, that system is supposed to automatically close a valve when the tank is full. If the automatic shut-off feature fails, the system should generate a flashing warning on the jet's refuel panel, notifying fuel operators of the failure. The FAA's proposal will require airlines to replace the processor units, following steps detailed in a 2nd of June 2020 Special Attention Requirements Bulletin issued by Boeing.
First of all, the continuing airworthiness of an aircraft or of an airline is the responsibility of the air operator, of the aircraft owner, or the airline, the AOC that is operating that aircraft. It is their responsibility. It is not even directly the responsibility of the NCAA. NCAA only provides safety oversight, spot-on inspection. As I'm speaking to you here now, there are more than maybe 20, 30 aircraft being fueled at the same time, right now, across different parts of across our 22 airports. Can NCAA be in all those places? There are more than 20, 30 aircraft tires and brakes being replaced right now. Can NCAA be on the ground to replace all those tires? But that is why there is internal mechanism for each airline. There's an approved maintenance procedure, which is not below, it even supersedes the International Civil Aviation Organization requirement, but it's NCAA's approved. So NCAA look at airline A or airline B, and they said, okay, we approve you to carry out your aircraft maintenance, your airworthiness, whatever, in this manner. So I don't want Nigerian passengers to have this mixed feeling. Yeah, it is natural because we are actually human. Airlines also, the quality assurance department, the licensed aircraft engineers and the airline are also up to their task. You know, they are also doing what they need to do. So the regulation is strictly being adhered to. Anybody who is not following what the regulation says, you can see what is happening to tire and engines. Well, you see, there is no part of the aircraft that is not actually as important as the engine and the tire and the control surface and the fuel system and the ice and rain protection system, de-icing system. Every system on the aircraft is key, is important. When you talk about the airframe, you look at even the entire cockpit avionics instrument, you look at the landing gear, you look at the fuel system, you look at the hydraulic system, you look at, I mean, all the control surface, everything has to be, including the structure of the aircraft, for dent, for cracks, and what have you. There are even inspections that is being done on the aircraft that you don't even see. That's why we have what you call the boroscope inspection. Your eyes cannot see the core of the engine. Every now and then, as recommended by the manufacturer's manual and as approved by the NCAA, that is the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, you must carry out certain kind of inspection. Okay, fine, the aircraft is flying. The manufacturer said that this aircraft can fly for the next 5,000 hours, the engine, before the next engine overhaul. But maybe after every 500 hours or after every 200 hours, you must do a boroscope or a videoscope. That is, you go into the core of the engine where your eyes cannot see without dismantling the engine and see the different compressor stages, the different blades, the different stages, what is happening there. Is there crack? Is there corrosion? Is there any bend? Is there any fatigue? You will see all those things. And that is how important the engine also is. You don't have to wait until when something happens. So these things are things that I want to assure the Nigerian flying public that the continuing airworthiness, the safety of the aircraft, is the responsibility of the airline owners. So the quality manager of an airline can argue with his MD or his chairman that the right thing must be done. And he has that immunity and that protection. The Civil Aviation Act protects such a person. So these are things that, the public don't know, but you see, this is what has kept us flying safe all this while.
Morocco's aerospace industry did see exports drop by nearly a third due to the COVID-19 pandemic, but now the sector is gradually recovering as manufacturers diversify into other high-tech engine areas and medical equipment. With the sector shedding 10% of some 17,000 jobs, the Moroccan Aerospace Suppliers Association said the industry has been dogged.
Before COVID-19, a growth of 20% was recorded for several years. It's an interesting growth, a significant technological development, but as you know, with the arrival of the pandemic, air transport stopped abruptly, which has impacted by a domino effect the entire industrial chain of aeronautics. We have been affected by this pandemic, but when we compare with other regions of the world that operate in the sector, we have been much less impacted and we have been very resilient.
Earlier this month, French Le Piston opened a $6 million plant in Morocco to manufacture aircraft engine parts in a sign of returning momentum. The Moroccan government announced its encouraging investment in the country by aerospace suppliers, hoping to match its success in car manufacturing, creating hubs to shorten supply chains and share expertise.
Lima, pendant cette période de crise, a joué un rôle essentiel, un rôle très important.
The IMA, Moroccan Airspace Institute, has played an essential role during this period of crisis, a very important role in protecting human resources and talents. And this is why we launched a program called New Opportunities that allows giving youth, some of whom were let go from their factories because of COVID-19, new trainings, and allow them to diversify their education in a way to be able to be rehired either in the aeronautical industry or in other industries, especially in the medical or biotechnology fields.
The aerospace companies least affected by the pandemic are those that extended into producing equipment for other sectors, such as medical equipment. SCRMP, a Casablanca-based company that supplies parts to French aircraft engine maker Safran, recently won approval from health authorities to make medical devices after producing ventilators and machine-making face masks.
In parallel, we have also developed other products, such as mask machines, in partnership with Renault. These machines are to provide mask manufacturers with a Moroccan tool, also produced 100% locally. All these small experiences pushed us to now create a medical-biomedical cluster, which will serve as a kickoff of a medical and medical devices industry in Morocco.
Morocco's Aerospace Suppliers Association recently launched a plan dubbed Industry 4.0 to boost the competitiveness of the Moroccan aerospace sector through encouraging highly technological industries, digitalization, and the use of clean energy.
Welcome back. Our special report is next.
A small recycling company is taking advantage of an opportunity presented by aircraft retirement. Retired aircraft line this tarmac, waiting to be dismantled. Various workers move air ramp across the tarmac. As COVID-19 grounds a large number of airline fleet, accelerated plane retirements is somewhat creating a room for profits for companies that thrive on dismantling and trade of aircraft parts.
This is an Airbus 310 that we started the harvesting of parts and the decontamination of this specific aircraft.
Canada's Aerocycle is bidding to buy grounded planes for the first time to dismantle and resell for parts instead of just recycling.
Behind there are bags, and what we're doing that's kind of special, that's why we just started doing it. The insulation that you see here in the walls, we've given this to a company in Quebec that manufactures electric buses, and they want to reuse the insulation bags for their buses. So we're trying that out right now.
While companies involved in the trade see opportunities in parked planes, a sudden increase in the supply of used parts risks depressing prices in the estimated $3 billion a year industry. With aviation remaining in a slump because of the pandemic, the fate of the world's pool of grounded planes is being closely watched by players in the market for used serviceable materials.
They're going to have to make certain financial decisions and cut their losses. Try and maximize the value of getting a certain value for the aircraft now versus next year. No one knows what the actual market, how the market predictions are going to be, right? If certain aircrafts are available now and they're priced right, that's where we're going to make the move to possibly purchase them.
The number of planes dismantled for parts or scrap could double to 1,000 annually through 2023. That's up from roughly 400 to 500 planes a year since 2016.
I think companies like ourselves are going to take certain precautions on harvesting parts off different types of airplanes to make sure that we're investing our money on removing parts that are in high demand. There's no rush for us to harvest parts off an aircraft. It could take a bit longer to make sure that our return on investment is a low risk. And if we need a part within 48 hours, we can get a part removed and AOG or shipped to whoever's requesting that part, right? So for us, it's more about being cautious on how we're harvesting parts off which aircraft. Versus before, it was a bit more open, so we would harvest more parts and keep them in inventory. Now, we're just going to, make sure we measure our risks on removing what parts off what aircraft.
Airplane recycling pertains to the process of harvesting parts and materials from end-of-life aircraft. As the airline industry looks to become more eco-friendly as well as to cut costs, one area of increasing interest is that of aircraft recycling. With 12,000 aircraft scheduled to be decommissioned over the next 2 decades, recycling will play a larger role. Airlines transport 52 million metric tons of goods a year, representing more than 35% of global trade by value, but less than 1% of world trade by volume. This is equivalent to $6.8 trillion worth of goods annually, or $18.6 billion worth of goods every day. Aircraft on the cargo airside of the international terminal in Lagos. This is one of the major hubs for air cargo in Nigeria, with the ground handlers having their terminal operations running. Cargo exporters at work put finishing touches to the consignment leaving the country. According to the International Air Transport Association, industry-wide available cargo tons kilometers went down 23.3% year-on-year in 2020, but cargo load factors, yields and revenues all rose to record high levels, providing support to airlines and some long-haul passenger services in the face of collapsing passenger revenues.
A whole range of products really, starting from our vegetables to our drinks, the made in Nigeria noodles. It's interesting to let you know that they find some of these made in Nigeria products a lot more superior, with a lot more quality than what they have in their different localities.
It saddened my heart when we as cargo airlines come to Lagos, drop the cargo, having to go to Accra or Nairobi in Kenya to pick up fresh flowers and veg to Europe. It makes economic sense to fly back direct to Europe from Lagos. Even in Europe, they prefer fruits and veg from Lagos for two reasons. It will become cheaper.
Despite the pandemic in 2020, African Airlines topped the growth chart both in 2020 overall and in December. Their international cargo ton kilometers increased by 1.9% year-on-year in 2020, the only region to accomplish this feat. This is not unconnected to airlines' continued lifting of essential items such as medical supplies and personal protective equipment. On the home front, the Nigerian Aviation Handling Company PLC had its revenue from export cargo business rise from 346.6 million naira to 397.4 million naira in 2020. Its counterpart, the Skyway Aviation Handling Company PLC, also grew its cargo handling export revenue from 318.38 million naira recorded in 2019 to 447.90 million in 2020.
When the pandemic came, what we also did was when we had some exporters that had issues maybe with a particular airline that wasn't coming in anymore, we would try and link them up with every one of the airlines that were coming. So it would be their choice. But most of them didn't even know they could have any alternative. So we did everything we could to support export businesses. We had discussions with some of our airlines that used to go, I think it was Turkish, that used to first go to Istanbul first to see what they could do when they complained. So they started a service that was going every Friday and went to London more directly. So that became easier for the exporters. So we did everything to support the exporters and the airlines.
It's obvious that exports of goods is raising the bar. Standardization is also key.
When you see a packet from China, you know it's from China. You see something from India, you know it's from India. You see something from Nigeria, it would be packaged with a box that had come into Nigeria with something else, and then they're trying to adjust it. Yes, we know that some companies are already trying to do that, but not enough to make it. Standardization is what will help us to get there. Standardization to fit what the market that we're exporting to actually wants.
For many, the government must continually create an enabling environment for entrepreneurs, a system where goods, including perishable cargo, can be stored and taken to their destinations quickly.
Aviation This Week winds down here. See you next time, God willing. I'm Bukola Joe Oketumbi.